Hi, I'm Dan Gillison, the CEO of NAMI. Welcome to day 2 of NAMICon. I'm proud to share the following powerful stories with you from across the NAMI Alliance of help and hope.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Gibbons. I'm a caregiver. My mother is deceased now, but she died with schizophrenia and she was a survivor of domestic violence. I have lived experience. I had a psychotic pregnancy, and now I'm a therapist trying to help others navigate life with mental health. I was born in Havana, Cuba, and I lived a life of persecution, fear, not knowing where our next meal was going to come from. Just not sure what the next day was going to bring when I went to school, or just if my family was going to be arrested because we were Christians. That was my life in Cuba for the 8 years that I lived there. Just the anxiety and the trauma of, will they snatch my mom or my sibling or even me because I believed in God. My mom's mom died when she was 2, so she was raised by her father, and she lived a life of abuse. And it wasn't until she came to America that she was diagnosed with schizophrenia, along with being a survivor of domestic violence and coming to a foreign country. So I lived a life of just being raised by someone who was sick, who was absent at awards day or at my softball games or when I won the spelling bee. Who often spent time sleeping and couldn't provide for a job, so we survived on Section 8 and food stamps and Medicaid. She didn't know English, so often I found myself to be her interpreter and to help her navigate, even attend doctor's appointments. And I was the one who received the cancer diagnosis and helped her navigate through that. So I was a caregiver even before I could write. I was her caregiver. When I first came from Cuba and we were received at Key West, there was a long table with all kinds of foods, and there was a little soda can of Coca-Cola that went shh. And when I would hear that sound, I knew that I was free. But that was also when I met social workers who were helping people get acclimated and acculturated to the United States. So between seeing social workers come to our rescue and seeing my mom, a foreigner who did not know the language or the culture, come across some of these things, I decided that I wanted to first be an interpreter, and I became a certified interpreter. And then later in life, when I took sociology classes and psychology classes, I really knew that this is what I wanted to be, that I wanted to help people navigate processes. Whatever it was, the process that we're going through life, I knew that I wanted to be there and walk with them and help them, give them tools like social workers gave us to navigate life in the United States. So I became a social worker first, and I did social work for about 20 years. And then I transitioned into becoming a therapist in the last 7 years. I love my profession because I get to identify. I don't get to judge. I can relate to a lot of the things that many of my clients are often experiencing, and so I get to be a partner with them. A partner that I didn't have. I didn't have good therapists growing up, and I don't think we knew about it, right? In my community, the Latino community, we don't go to therapists. It's taboo. There's a stigma. So to be able to be a bilingual licensed therapist for a community that often finds this to be taboo, and to identify with them and say, no estás loco, you're not crazy. You know, this is an experience, and we have interventions, whatever the intervention may be for you, that will help you live resiliency. It gives me great joy to be able to do that. In the community that I live, I found NAMI, and it's a wonderful organization. Number one, I gotta say, NAMI is free people. A lot of people don't realize that there's not an access to service or a barrier with NAMI because the services are free. They're in your town, they're in your area. You can look them up nationally and you can find them. to me, I identify it as like AA. Everybody knows AA, that you could just look on Google or something and find it. That's how NAMI is. You can find a group in your area at a time, whether it be at a church, wherever it is, and they're there for you. And the amount of services that they offer are amazing. So NAMI has helped me to find resources, especially because I work with a population that's uninsured or underinsured. And so NAMI is a good partner for me to find resources for the families that I work with. It makes me feel good that I have a place to refer people. Often in our field, we're always talking about where are the resources at. So to have NAMI right in my backyard, I have people that I can actually connect to them, not just call this number and somebody will get back to you. It's a hand-to-hand soft touch. I have this referral. Can you tell me about this program? Is it going to be in Spanish? What's available? So to be able to do that with NAMI, it makes me feel that I'm actually helping my clients. I had referred someone to NAMI who is Latina. Her English is broken. And she told me about the experience that her entire family had with NAMI. That means her husband, her 2 little boys, and her teen daughter, who happened to be dealing with suicidal ideations. She said that NAMI took the entire family under their wings, and if it wasn't for several of the services that were offered to them, her family would not be in a place of stability today. So that's someone who homed in to the services that NAMI has. It didn't matter if her language was different. She had access, and she had someone who spoke to her and walked with her in her language, and she was able to service her entire family. That's what NAMI does for people.
Being African American and identifying as gay in America, well, that's a lot to unpack there. Sometimes it's such a double-edged sword because there's so much that comes with just being Black in America, hands down. There's so much with racial injustice and racial profiling, discriminatory acts of violence against people that are my complexion, people that look like me every day. I remember having people throw rocks, shoot at me while I was standing on the bus stop waiting for the school bus, people yelling homophobic slurs at me, every name that you can imagine. And what that does to you mentally, being degraded in such a way for something that you can't even control, something that you were ultimately born with, and being made to feel less than because of that. It really just tears at you. And it could really, really make people feel worthless to the point where they do want to take their lives. And then you add being Black on top of that, and you see people hate you because of that. And it's like, why am I here? So I always felt very much alone, never feeling like I had a safe space. So, in your mind, you just kind of want to get rid of all the outside noise. You just want to shut everything and everybody out because you just feel like sometimes nobody really gets you. You feel like you're not worthy. Like, everything about you is wrong. Is it my fault? You blame yourself. So it's like, I went through a lot of those feelings and I never really felt like I had anybody to talk to. So as a teenager, I started to feel very suicidal, and then that began the journey of trying to heal. My mom put me in different treatment programs. It really kind of changed my perspective on life because I really just felt like I was cornered and life was over for me. But once I started to go to these programs, it just opened up a new world for me. And it showed me like, okay, this doesn't have to be the end. Like, you don't have to play into what people project onto you. You can overcome. You can get through it. And then eventually, when I got to my senior year, I got to a space where I felt comfortable to just be who I am and not worry about what everybody else was saying to me, what everybody felt about me. It didn't matter to me anymore. And even though I still had struggles, and I still have struggles as a adult today, I'm not where I used to be. And that's the greatest blessing in it all, is because I've learned how to manage. I've learned how to cope, and how to cope in healthy ways. And I've learned how to keep pushing and just stay strong within it all. What's so great about NAMI and having a community of people that are supportive and are willing to welcome you in with open arms and talk to you and, hear you out, is we all know that times can get really challenging, and it is some really dark things out there in the world. And to have a safe space to go to that was created specifically for people like me, people like us who may need that to just make it through, it's wonderful, because sometimes we all just want someone to listen, want someone to acknowledge us and recognize that I'm here.
I found NAMI through a friend of the family, and following, gathering more information about NAMI, I signed up for my first training, which was for the Ending the Silence presentation. And about 2 months after the training, I was able to go to my first high school. And there was only about 15 teachers in the classroom. So when I stood up, I had all eyes on me. And I was extremely nervous, and I felt completely vulnerable. And I thought, I'm about to tell these people the messiest parts of my life, complete strangers who may accept me, who may ridicule me, but I felt like it's now or never. I have to use my lived experience to help somebody. And if I'm reaching even one of the teachers that I'm speaking to today, and they can in turn reach one student who may be struggling with their mental health, it felt completely worth it. After the presentation, I was received very warmly by the teachers that had heard my story, and I had several of them come up to me afterwards and say, I have a particular student in mind when you were telling your story that sounded so similar, or even that they too had experienced different things throughout their life that they could equate back to what I had said in my own experiences. But it felt empowering to share my story, to share the parts of me that I had been ashamed of before, but to know that I wasn't being ridiculed, I was being accepted, and I was able to use that for good. Because when I was in school, I didn't have anyone giving mental health education to my teachers, to my administrators, to the people who were helping educate me, and that's exactly what I wish had been there. I went from 15 teachers originally to over 5,000 police, first responders, parents, guardians, teachers, and legislators talking about mental health and what my experiences were like growing up in a mentally ill home and then having mental illness myself. NAMI is important because they provide free services to the people who seek out their care. They provide mental health education, which was really important to me. It was something that I desperately needed in the beginning of my mental health journey. And it also provides support. It provides non-judgmental, stigma-free support from your peers and for people who want to partner with you to help find the best care for you.
I woke up in a padded room to my mom looking at me with tears in her eyes. And I thought to myself, I can't do this to my mother. She was there right after I got shot. She saw me take my first steps in physical therapy after being shot by the sniper. And here she was, seeing me after trying to take my life. It was a rock bottom moment for me to see me recovering from my injuries, both physically and mentally, and my mom being there throughout the entire thing, and then putting my mom through that. I realized that I needed help. I couldn't do this to my mom. I didn't want to do it to myself. And I knew that there were other veterans going through the same thing that I was going through. So I sought help. I found out where to go within the VA. I had to knock down doors, almost just like when I was back in combat. I had to knock down doors to get the help that I needed. It was a long, hard fight, but I got the help, I got the medication that I needed, and I was able to talk to other veterans about what we went through who served in Iraq and in Afghanistan. Eventually, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. I found out about an organization called NAMI. After doing my research, I became further integrated and found out about a program called NAMI Homefront, which serves service members, veterans, just like myself, and their caregivers and their family members who don't quite understand what those veterans go through. Things that I wish my mom knew when I came home, that she would have been able to tell me and help me with my mental health issues and possibly prevent my attempt. And I jumped at that opportunity. I got the education that I needed. I got the formal training, and I became vice president of my local affiliate. And now what I do is I go around and I speak about all the opportunities and the programs that we have within NAMI. But for me to be a veteran advocate, to have that lived experience and help reduce that number of suicides within the veteran community every day, there's nothing like that. Because see, the veterans, we left the physical battlefield, but now there's a mental battlefield that we have to go through, which everybody can't see. If you have a broken leg, people can see your leg in a scar. If you have a cut on your arm, people can see that. But the mental scars that you have here, nobody can see. And when you're a veteran, you want other veterans who can relate to you to talk about those things to. And who better than me, a combat veteran that served during the height of the war in Iraq, was shot by a sniper, had my own attempts to be that peer counselor for other veterans and their caregivers, and let them know that you can overcome everything you're going through, especially if you came back from whatever era of war you served in. You served, now let me serve you in my role within NAMI. NAMI means recovery, sacrifice, selfless service. For me, never leaving a fallen comrade on the physical or mental battlefield.
I remember being in the NAMI room, and I was doing the In Our Own Voice, and we had to stand up and I had to share my story. And in the sharing my story, I remember everybody in the room just looking at me like, wow, this is incredible. And I remember me shaking or me not wanting to share and me still leaving parts out because of the shame and the guilt. And I opened up to them and I let it be known, just my story. And in that moment, I remember people just were either teary-eyed or they were looking at me, or they came up to me later and said I felt the same way. And it was just an eye-opener that I need to share more. I have to share more. I have to let out my voice. Even if it's scary, I have to share it because there's someone out there who's feeling the same way I'm feeling, which is sitting in the room saying, wow, she's sharing my story, which is she's sharing the same things that I've been through. And that was the first time I shared my story. It was nerve-wracking, it was scary, but when I saw the responses of the people around me, I knew that I had to keep doing it. So the power of support groups is incredible. Being in there, it's like you have a family around you. You have a support system. It's just like a comforting feeling. It's a vulnerable feeling. It gets you vulnerable, and I think that's what it did the most. It made me more vulnerable, made me more able to share my story authentically, even though my voice still shakes sometimes, even though I I'm scared or I think someone's gonna judge me, NAMI still has pushed me to share my story in such an amazing way. In such an amazing way. And just the support group, how it taught me to share my story in a positive way to where I can not only share the dark side, but come out with a light, come out in now this is what I'm doing now, this is what I did because of this. I just never thought it was here for us. I never thought this was an opportunity until I got into the support groups and got with NAMI. NAMI to me means family, it means support, it means vulnerability, it means sharing your story from a most authentic and beautiful way that you possibly can. And to me, it means strength.
Being a first responder, frontline worker, I would time and time again find myself as a 911 dispatcher on the line with somebody who was in a severe mental health crisis. And I would have to maintain my composure, my calm, my reassuring voice throughout the entirety of that situation. Same thing when I was on the ambulance responding to people who were in the middle of crises. I had to be professional, I had to keep my demeanor, but my mental health symptoms were unbelievably challenging to contain in those situations. So that's where a lot of the substance abuse came in, was getting me through that and allowing me to keep my composure, to maintain. So instead of trying to deal with the issues that I had, I went to the doctor and just pretty much said whatever I could to get whatever prescriptions I could. And I worked most of my career like that, hiding my substance abuse in the background with a nice face forward for the public. I worked in EMS for 12 years, I was a dispatcher for 10 years, and then I got hurt. When I got hurt, I didn't have anything to do, and I wasn't really treating my mental illness symptoms, any of them. Things kind of quickly spiraled out of control, and it wasn't until I realized that I really need to treat these. I realized that after I was the response, I was the subject that they were responding to. I was the one in crisis, because I never addressed the issues I needed to until I had no choice. I essentially lost everything. I was living in the Northeast, and no one would speak to me because of the things I had done, because of my mental illness symptoms and my substance use disorder. I had a phone full of contacts, and not a single one of them would answer me. So my only choice was to get treatment, to actually legitimately get some treatment. The only facility I could find was in South Georgia that would take my insurance, as well as treat the dual diagnosis of substance use disorder and mental illness. I actually drove my car with all my possessions to the airport at Philadelphia and abandoned it, left it there with all my possessions in it. Got on a plane by myself. No one knew where I was or where I was going. I ended up in South Georgia at the treatment center, and that's where I ended up with NAMI, was in the process of getting that treatment. NAMI was introduced to me through the various presentation programs, and I was able to meet some of the volunteers and some of the more dedicated members in NAMI, and they treated me like family. They welcomed me in to their circle and told me that circle could be as wide as it needed to be. They assured me that when I didn't think I had any friends, I did. When I thought I had lost all family, I still had family. I got a lot of education from NAMI. I also got, just in my exposure with them, a completely different worldview. When I started hanging out and spending time with NAMI and doing activities and functions with NAMI, I started to realize that I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be productive. I deserve to pursue the things I want to pursue. And NAMI gave me a lot of tools to do that. So I ended up joining NAMI, working with them, learning about the different programs in our own voice, sharing your story with law enforcement, peer-to-peer. And now I not only taken those programs, I teach those programs, share my story with others, because as far as I'm concerned, we're all on the same road for recovery. We're just at different points and wearing different shoes. So if I can look back and say, hey, I hit that speed bump there, don't hit it either, because it might knock you off course, then that was a wonderful day for me. NAMI means everything to me. I wouldn't be here if NAMI wasn't around, because it gave me a sense of purpose. It gave me a sense of direction. It gave me family. It gave me friends. It gave me hope. And it erased a lot of stigma that I had stored.
Wow, the power of NAMI is in sharing our stories, which we heard captured in these bold and brave voices. 2 years ago at NAMICon, we launched the Wellbeing's Youth Mental Health Campaign, led by Public Media and WETA, the PBS flagship station in our nation's capital, along with what is now more than 30 sponsors and partners. Since then, many NAMI state and affiliate organizations have participated in this extraordinary collaboration with local PBS stations and community organizations in a national virtual tour to over 30 markets, from Nebraska to Alaska, Pittsburgh to San Francisco to Washington, D.C., bringing resources, mental health training, and panel discussions that include youth with lived experience, peers and professionals, family members and friends to talk about the mental health and well-being of America's youth and the crisis they and we confront every day. 1.7 million people watched or engaged in the national tour. 10,000 stories submitted to the We Are Wellbeing's story wall on wellbeings.org, and 62 million impressions across social media platforms. The conversations continue as we join together again for the launch of a new 4-hour documentary series. Ken Burns presents Hiding in Plain Sight, Youth Mental Illness, a film by Eric Ewers and Christopher Lauren Ewers, premiering in prime time on June 27th and 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern on PBS stations nationwide, and also streaming on PBS Free Video on Demand. We hope you'll join us now to celebrate and see highlights of nearly 2 years of an exceptional collaboration around the country, uniting us for the same cause, with excerpts from the documentary series and a conversation between executive producer Ken Burns and NAMI Next Gen Youth Advisors. We will also be joined by Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, Carole King, Colton Ryan, Kristen Bell, LeVar Burton, and many more. And finally, as conversation starters to bring hope and help to America's youth and families, we invite you to hold screenings and panel discussions in the coming months in your local NAMI communities.